The Glasgow 2014 Queen's Baton Relay is the curtain raiser to the 20th Commonwealth Games. It will visit 71 nations and territories, cover more than 190,000 kilometres, and involve a third of the world's population. It's a unique tradition and the most engaging relay in the world. The relay is launched at Buckingham Palace on the 9th of October 2013, when Her Majesty the Queen places her message to the Commonwealth inside the baton. Then it starts its momentous journey round the world, where it will visit every one of the Commonwealth nations and territories, starting with India, host of the 2010 Commonwealth Games. With 1.2 billion people, India is the most populated Commonwealth nation and has 14 official languages. 2010 was the second time that the Games took place in Asia, and the motto of those Games was, "Come out and play." Australia has hosted the Games 4 times, and the Melbourne 2006 Queen's Baton Relay was the first to visit all 71 nations and territories of the Commonwealth. It covered more than 180,000 kilometres on its journey to the Games.
You gotta play at home. Production. Hello viewers and listeners of ZIZ. My name is Clement O'Garo, and I welcome you to another in our roundtable series asking questions of national prominence and providing answers in a collaborative approach. In this program, we attempt to allay the fears of many who are of the opinion that the music industry in St. Kitts is non-existent or has no hope of resuscitation. For that reason, we have gathered a panel of experts to help us discuss the future of music in St. Kitts. To my left is Jamster, who we know as a DJ, announcer, and music critic. On my other side is Azem Bailey, sound engineer and technician, and next to him is Mr. Adrian Lamb, the sound and production coordinator. I hope I have all those titles right. I do apologize for the absence of Mr. Wingrove Hicks, who had to travel to St. Lucia. We wish him all the best there, and also to Mr. Junie Liebert, who had an emergency, and hopefully he will still be able to join the panel. What we're going to do now, we're going to take a break. I'm going to come back and I'm going to tell you some good stuff about these guys, and then we'll get into the meat of the discussion. Of course, we're asking you to join us at 466-2666, and we're going to do that in the last hour of our program tonight. So we're going to take a break. We'll come back at the round table.
Malawi has competed in 10 games and won their last medals in Scotland, while they took home 2 boxing bronzes at the Edinburgh Games in 1986. Malawi is also known as the warm heart of Africa. When it comes to sport, particularly athletics, Jamaica has an incredible heritage and is home to some all-time greats such as Johan Blake and multiple world record holder Usain Bolt. Canada is the largest of all the Commonwealth nations and is so vast it has 6 different time zones. The first games were hosted here way back in 1930, and since then, Canada has participated in every single games. The whole journey will take 248 days, so when the baton visits your nation, come out and cheer it on its way. The Queen's Baton Relay is for all the people of the Commonwealth, and it gives everyone the chance to be part of this unique countdown to Glasgow 2014. Once the baton has travelled the Commonwealth and the home nations of Jersey, Guernsey, the Isle of Man, Northern Ireland, Wales and England, it will come home to Scotland, where it will be cheered through the streets for 40 days and be carried by thousands of baton bearers. Nobody does a warm welcome quite like the Scots. We're world famous for it. If you don't believe us, come and see for yourself. The Queen's Baton finishes its epic journey at the Games opening ceremony, when the final baton bearer returns the baton to Her Majesty the Queen and her message is read aloud. At that moment, the Glasgow 2014 Commonwealth Games is officially declared open. To find out more about the Queen's Baton Relay and how you can get involved, go to glasgow2014.com/baton relay and join the Commonwealth clan.
Good evening, St. Kitts. Good evening, Nevis.
It is a historic moment for St. Kitts and Nevis.
Special good night to those radio listeners, those viewing on television, and those following us via the internet.
And one of the things that I would like to see established in the CPL here in St. Kitts, as we can recall, the many entertainers, Gravy from Antigua, you had King Dial from Barbados, and a few others further afield.
Cricket World Cup 2007 proved that we are ready for the big league.
Welcome back to our roundtable tonight, and we're pleased to be joined by owner, manager of Freedom Radio, the Big JL. We want to say a special welcome. So let's start. Let me tell you some stuff about these guys so you know the caliber of people that's going to, be discussing the music industry in St. Kitts tonight. In education, Junie started out at the boys' school, Bastia High School, University of the West Indies, and Brooklyn College. He has a bachelor's degree in political science and English, and a master's in English and mass communication. Junie taught at the Bastia High School, the Gilbert School, PS21 and PS304 in Brooklyn, New York. He has also served as a media advisor to the government of St. Kitts and Nevis, general manager of ZIZ Radio and TV, director of St. Kitts Nevis Information Service, and also served as a marketing director for the St. Kitts Music Festival for all of 10 years. Presently, of course, as I said before, Mr. Liebert is the founder, owner, CEO of Freedom FM 106.5, a family of ZIZ.
Thank you.
And I got to get these sides right. So this is my left-hand side. And Azem Bailey, who I just met a couple years ago, actually in 2010, 3 years ago, and he has convinced me that he knows some stuff about music and sound and all that stuff. So that's the reason why I brought him in tonight. In 2008, he graduated from Full Sail University in Orlando, Florida with a bachelor's degree in show production and touring. While at Full Sail, Mr. Bailey was a lab instructor and being eager to utilize his skills and toured with several bands across the U.S., including Leadhead, Hand to Hand, and New Age rock giants Non-Point. Upon returning to St. Kitts in 2010, Mr. Bailey has worked as a sound engineer for the St. Kitts Music Festival, St. Kitts Carnival, which we know as Sugar Mass, Heineken Regatta, Anguilla Carnival, St. Thomas Carnival, Moon Splash, Into the Blue, St. John's Carnival, Dominica Carnival, you get the picture. Added to his laundry list of talents, Mr. Bailey has served as music producer for various local artists and the production manager for the all-inclusive Inception Fete. And I just want to add that, of course, last Carnival, a lot of the sweet, good soca music you hear, Mr. Azim was responsible for ensuring that they sounded better than normal. Oh. And Mr. Adrian Lamb, on the extreme left, a man who I've known since time immemorial, from Fairviewing, my longtime neighbor, a bachelor's in business administration from St. Mary's University in Halifax, Canada. Of course, he started the original Toucan in Halifax back in 1987. On return home, he joined the Quintessence, founding member of Black Choral, and then the new Toucan was launched in 1984, which lasted until 1997. He began offering production services in 1996 when the St. Kitts Music Festival started. Chairman of St. Kitts Music Festival between the years 97 and 2002. And he's been doing a production from that year since. Toucan Sound and Production Services Company was started in 2004 and still going strong. Sound systems and backline gear provided to all sorts of events. And he is currently the president of SNAP, which is the local musicians association. That association started back in 2000. See, Junie got a question already about that, so maybe that's something that we need to discuss as well. And I'm looking for one of my friends here. Let's see if, hope I can find him. Jamster. Yes, Jamster. He says he's a lifelong lover of music. Is your wife listening? Okay. His early musical life included piano lessons, record store labors, and early in his teens, disc jockey. His first and most affecting residency as DJ was at the storied Lighthouse nightclub, where he played alongside and succeeded DJ legend Ronnie Rascal. He then pursued his dream of becoming a record producer and sound engineer by undertaking studies in Toronto, Canada at the Harris Institute's Producing and Engineering Program, Recording Arts Management, and Music and Multimedia Programs. Jamster now runs a small recording studio, works as an on-air DJ for Win FM, and plans to start a production company aimed at producing and marketing musical talent. So he is the perfect person for this discussion tonight. What we're going to do is we're going to take another break, give these guys a chance to get their stuff together. We're going to give each panelist, I should say, an opportunity to introduce themselves to you by telling us, some stuff that they want to discuss tonight. The bad, the good, the ugly, and how we can actually move forward with an industry that, hey, many say has died, is dying, or need a musical doctor. I'm about to die. All right, so we're going to take a break, and we're going to come right back to the round table.
You can feel totally normal and still have high blood pressure, which puts you at risk for heart attack, stroke, or kidney disease. And because you don't know you're at risk, you feel totally normal until you don't. So take charge of your health while you can by making one small change. Have your blood pressure checked twice a year. If it's high, your doctor can help you lower it.
St. Kitts. Good evening, Nevis.
It is a historic moment for St. Kitts and Nevis.
Special good night to those radio listeners, those viewing on television, and those following us via the internet.
And one of the things that I would like to see established in the CPL here in St. Kitts, as we can
You can feel
Good evening, St. Kitts. Good evening, Nevis.
It is a historic moment for St. Kitts and Nevis.
Special good night to those radio listeners, those viewing on television, and those following us via the internet.
And one of the things that I would like to see established in the CPL here in St. Kitts, as we can recall, the many entertainers, Gravy from Antigua, you had King Dial from Barbados, and a few others further afield.
Cricket World Cup 2007 proved that we are ready for the big league.
All right, welcome back again, listeners and viewers. You're on 96.1 FM, ZIZ Radio on Channel 5 in St. Kitts. Of course, we want to say a special welcome to all the folks who are logged on www.zizonline.com. And of course, you can get all this information tomorrow and on Facebook. Okay, so let's get into the meat of the matter. We're talking about music in St. Kitts, and I'm sure everybody is very passionate about music, considering where we once were, and maybe that's a controversial statement compared to where we are today. So we were having a back and forth as to who will go first, and someone suggested that Junie go first because of age.
No, Junie suggested that he go first.
Oh, okay.
Because of history.
Okay, so Junie's gonna dig into the history of the music industry here in St. Kitts, and then we'll let everybody, give you their turn, and then we'll come back and start going back and forth.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Good evening to my fellow panelists, and good evening to Radio and TV Land. It's good to be back at ZIZ for another opportunity to speak with the people of the Federation, especially something as critically important as our thriving or non-existent music industry. It depends on which perspective you're looking at. But I want to delve in the few moments that I have tonight into the history of the music industry here in St. Kitts and in Nevis. We know that our music has its roots in Africa. And so when we look at our music, we cannot see it in a vacuum. We have to look at how it originated, its roots and origin. And my submission is that the music that we have in St. Kitts and Nevis today comes from the drum beat of Africa, the pulse of Africa. That is how we started in St. Kitts and in Nevis. And this is clearly manifested in the use of the kettle drum, the fife, the banjo, and then later on the steel band. These formed very vital and functional parts of our history in music. I can recall growing up in McKnight and later Dorset and Market Street, where I used to get awakened by the sounds of Samuel's big drum. That to me signified how important not only the drum is for communication, but putting in perspective the role and function of the drum in our music. The drum is the pivotal and central part of Kittitian and Nevisian music. Now, I want to also reflect on the influence also of the people who we met here, the Caribs and the Arawaks, because they too had a music, they too had a way of communication. And so when the slaves came, the Middle Passage as we know, took out almost all of the culture out of the inhabitants of St. Kitts and Nevis who came here from Africa as slaves. And so we have to factor into the music the role of the Carib and Arawak in our music. We also know that on a typical month of the year, typical day in the year, that the slaves used to perform song and dance routines for massa on the estates. Now, this is the origin, the essence of our song and dance routines that we have in the Federation. And we know we celebrate that during Carnival and Christmas time with the music. We still see the kettle drum, we still hear the drums and the fifes and the banjo and the steel band, although the steel band seems to be fading out of our music. But we also have to factor into our music the European influence brought by the white colonial masters, in our case, the French and English colonials. Their music, their European art and culture and music formed an integral part as well of our music. So we have to look at the African influence, the Caribbean, the Indians, the Caribbean Arawaks. We also have to look at the European influence. We look at the East Indian indentured servants who came here after slavery was abolished, and factor in the influence of Indian music as well in our music. Then take the transition, make the move now to the North American music that influenced our music. I grew up here at ZIZ. I remember when I left high school, I worked at ZIZ as a DJ on the radio, and that was my first job. And I was influenced to a very great extent by the soul music that came out of North America. The soul, the R&B, the blues, the gospel. All of these formed functional and important roles in defining and shaping our music in St. Kitts and Nevis. Now, today, we've seen how our music is, the state of our music. It seems as if the steel band is disappearing. The brass bands that used to be around, the brass, again, coming out of Africa and Europe, the soul, the R&B from North America, our music has changed. We don't have, in a very real sense, musicians plying their trade as they used to back in the 50s and 60s and 70s. Instead, the computer has taken over our music to a very large extent. Nobody anymore really goes and writes music, although you have professionals who still do that, and that is still very important in our music. But my contention is that our music today is computer-driven. Musicians have all but disappeared and become on the side in today's modern music here in St. Kitts and Nevis. And what we emphasize now is the production of beats rather than relying on musical theories and musical instruments to any large extent. Beats has transfigured and transposed our music, taking it to a more modern image, if you will, a more modern concept and structure and function. That I have some children, and they get into the rap and to the music of today, and in a very real sense, the beats is what is important. Even in the young musicians that we have around today in St. Kitts and Nevis, it seems as if the beats and the influence of the computer, the technology, this is the state of our music today. I'm going to rest and allow the other panelists to come in, and then I'll come back and shed some more on some of the things that I've been saying.
All right, Judy, thank you. Thank you very much for some strong points there and starting us, back in time when we could say that, music came to our islands with the various influences. So, Adrian, tell us something that we don't know.
Good evening. How are you?
I'm doing fine.
Junie, Amster, and Azim. I'm very grateful to be here to put my perspective forward this evening. Following the opening batting of Mr. Leiber there is not very easy, but I'm going to make a few runs here too. We have a very vibrant history when it comes to music in St. Kitts and Nevis. As Joni just stated, we have had many steel bands from the 30s and the 40s, develop into brass bands, dance bands, many successful bands. I have a list of names here. I don't know if I need to go to them because we all know we have had a lot of bands in the last 40 years in St. Kitts. But to touch on two things that are dear to my heart. One is the development of the musicians. I think that we lack in, and Joni just touched it, quality in the musicians that we have today. We have programmers, and that's exactly what I had. Joni just repeated what I have here. We have programmers, and we don't have very many qualified musicians who really are very good and ply their trade. Therefore, the harmonic content of our music is lacking. To have good music, you need a marriage of both. There's a place for the programming and the computer technology, and there's a place for good musicians. You can't be a good keyboard player by just programming and you don't really know harmonic structure properly. And I think the difference between a lot of what we're doing and what you're hearing coming out of Trinidad or in the States is that they have very, very good keyboard players or guitarists or drummers. The problem is we're trying to put everything in a box and it doesn't come out the same way. That is one area that we need to improve, and we're going to discuss that later, how we could improve that area, the development of the musicians in St. Kitts and Nevis. The other area that I think we have to look at very carefully, if we're going to improve or have an industry, if the debate is going to be whether we have the industry or not, is the development of the business of the music. This is another area that we haven't developed, and we don't have any, we don't really have much professionals in the music business. When I was growing up, I don't think there was anybody who got encouraged to go and study music very much at universities. Unfortunately, everybody went to study medicine and law, be an engineer, but very few people got encouraged to go and study music or the arts in general. And in African culture, the development of culture and the arts was something that was very important. You know, you had universities in Egypt and all over in Africa that improved our culture because society is developed by how good the arts and culture was. In our environment, it seems we have gotten into very intellectual things and we have left behind the culture. We have developed sports and spent a lot of money in sports in the last 20, 30 years. But when you look at the development of our culture, you know, there are many things that I think are left to be desired, and we really need it. We have seen our own society harden because people exposed to music and the arts are usually people who have an appreciation of each other. We have lost that society where we could, you know, look for my brother because the music does something to us. So we have lost that, and I think we really need to develop that. But coming back to the business of music, we don't have managers and agents in St. Kitts who really know the business. We don't have entertainment lawyers. These are areas that we really need to develop in order to push our industry forward. The professionalism of a lot of the bands and the artists is lacking. We need an improvement. A lot of the entertainers think they can get away, but they don't understand that in the Mecca, which is the United States, when it comes to entertainment, you might see a guy making some comments, but it's programmed. Everything, he knows what he's doing because he got people behind him who, if he doesn't know, telling him what to do. Mm-hmm. The other thing, and we will develop this as we go on, the music is changing all the time. I think that for us to export our music, which is what we have to look at if we're going to have an industry, because we only have 35 and 15,000 people to make 50 in our federation, the music is very ethnic, and to export it in its current form is not easy. We have to develop it in such a way, and we see it happening around us in the other societies that are doing reggae and doing soca, dancehall, that they are encompassing other, you know, everything into the music from other sources and making something new. We seem to be stuck in a groove that we can't seem to get out of. Regarding Snap, and Juni, this in case you didn't know, which is a professional association. We've been existing on the peripherals for about 10 years. We have tried to get together a number of times. Yeah, a number of times. But the difficulty with the groups and the organization artists, nobody wants to come, everybody wants to run to somebody to have but they don't want to contribute to an organization. And an organization is made up of all the parts. Right now we're trying hard to revive it one more time. We have a constitution, but we're trying to review the constitution right now and do a number of things, because we're not going to get very far unless we group together and work together towards certain distinctive goals. So that's what I have to say for now, and I hope we could have a very vibrant discussion.
All right. Thank you very much, Adrian. Some really good points. I'm very passionate about the music business. And when I say music business, I don't just mean the music. I mean, making money from the business. And I find that we're very, very lacking here in St. Kitts when it comes to that. Well, as MU just came back from another major tour, I should say. So maybe you can tell us how to make some money in this industry in St. Kitts.
You want to put me on the spot? How to make money? Everybody coming to me now? Well, good night to everybody listening and everybody watching. Monarch, thanks for the opportunity to be here. And it's a pleasure to be here with all these panelists. I mean, I'm the youngest, I believe. So I think that I have a unique position, being someone that's now coming out of what people have been referring to as a dead industry and working in that same field. You know what I mean? I mean, when I finished with high school, I was already playing in bands. I was already mixing, little here, little there, but I just had a passion for music. I just knew I loved music, but it never crossed my mind to really make music a career. And even if I suggested it to people, it would be received with comments like, you gotta be crazy. Man, you ain't gonna live here when you're done. So I went off and I taught high school for a while, and I loved it, but sometimes you have a passion and you have to follow it, So I left and then now back and trying to really do something about the music here. But the truth is, because there wasn't that industry, it was difficult for me and people like me who have this passion to really see it as an option, And I really feel that something needs to be done, because I don't think I'm the only one. I know there's a lot of guys that love this and actually do have talent. And that for me is one of the sad things, because I do believe that there's a lot of talent here. The problem, one, is how to develop that talent, and two, how to have those people make something that they could sustain themselves with by using this talent. I think right now the present situation is bleak. I'm gonna be blunt. I think the present situation is bleak. We have bands that go out to perform, bands that have been around for 25 years, go to perform for 3-hour sets and play a half hour of their own music. I don't know if they don't like it. I don't know, but I don't know why. You have artists that spend money, go to recording studios, record their music, and then at the end of the day, send out a Dropbox link on their BBM Messenger or put it on Facebook, and that's the end of it. There's no way to track who's listening to it. There's no way to be compensated for it. And I think people don't have the knowledge, and they don't know how to really turn this into an industry where we could really make money, where we could support ourselves. And I really feel that the onus is on us as artists, musicians, DJs, those of us involved in the art, to really push it to the place where we could demand compensation for what we're producing. It's well and good to be like, we don't get money, but when you're gonna have mediocre production, and when you're gonna have mediocre performances on stage, you're on stage with a stocking cap on your head and these things, it's hard to tell people, well, pay me X amount. You know what I mean? You have to value yourself first before people value you. And that's one of the things that I really am passionate about, the fact that I think the musicians have to really think about themselves as professionals in order to be treated professionally, you know? In terms of like Joni mentioned, the style of music and the influence from, you know, Africa and the United States. And I really feel that we here in St. Kitts have this almost a copycat type of thing happening now, where this is what's hot, and then you hear somebody here doing it. Till now, we can't get out of the autotune thing.
True.
You know what I mean? True. Till now, you can't, I asked somebody if autotune is really becoming the sound of St. Kitts music, because it's years now this thing going on, and you can't get out of it.
We're about 10 years behind.
Yeah, autotune done with, you know, and we're still in this thing, and I don't know why, but
Jay-Z killed it.
You understand? But my thing is, I don't have a problem with getting the influences, right? I think it's very important that we are influenced by, but don't imitate. You know what I mean? And because as musicians, as artists, I think the main reason that we are here and the main reason that we do what we do is because we have something to say. You know? And so if you really don't have something to say, maybe you don't need a mic. You know? But, you know, I feel that I really feel that there's a lot of searching that we in the industry, or lack thereof, need to do in order to, you know, really ask ourselves, why are we here? Because doctors ain't gonna blame what's happening in the medicine industry on lawyers. You know, musicians really have to take the onus and step up to the plate, because we have a big responsibility as musicians, as artists, to society. And it's very important what we do. And I don't think we understand it, and it's hard for persons to understand it if we don't. So hopefully we could discuss some of these things. I hear people coming up with serious hard-hitting questions, and so.
Well, as you said, take the onus and step up to the plate. And that's exactly what we're here to do tonight, because, I mean, I think everybody on the panel is very passionate. We're very passionate about our music here in St. Kitts Nevis. And of course, one such person is our Mr. Jamster, who is coming to us from our friends at Win FM. Good evening, sir.
And I just want to say pretty much what Azim said. It's great to be here with all these great purveyors of their respective arts and all that.
You're great yourself.
No,
and welcome back to ZIZ.
Yeah, and not as young as him.
Well, no, everybody, it's good that Joni touched on the history, and Adrian touched on the business a bit, as did Azim. I want to touch on the history and the business, and I'm sure everybody pretty much touched on some of the things I want to talk about, but one of the things that I really want to talk about from the history standpoint is that always bugs me, is, I'm surprised Julie didn't talk about it, but I'm sure he's probably going to get into it later on. Heat waves, element in the jazz brass, Jazz Brass International, Earth Tones. It always bugs me that all of these guys, and not even just the bands, even the solo artists like Starshield, it always bugs me that none of these guys thought about having their master tapes, and where now they could do remastered versions, not even remix so much, because there was something kind of earthy and organic about the way they recorded that stuff back then, because it did sound good. But the point I'm making is, it really bugs me that we really can't. None of these guys can even do proper reissues of this stuff based on the master tapes, and I think it all comes about because of one of the things I know. It's one of the things I notice about us as a people. We don't have a sense of history, in the sense that we don't seem compelled to want to preserve what went before. And I don't know. You see why? But I'll tell you all why it bugs me. as a DJ, I buy a lot of music, and I remember when I was in college, Azim, I'm sure I told Azim this before. I spent a lot of money buying collections, you know, and it's great to see that, you know, all these artists, people like Curtis Mayfield and all these people. I mean, they had access to their master tapes where they could put a greatest hits collection together, right, remaster it and all that, and we just don't have. And it's not just St. Kitts Nevis, because I've bought CDs from some of these other guys where you can hear the crackling from the record, where somebody put it on a record player and just and then transferred it to a CD. And to me, that is not good enough. It's admirable in that, yeah, at least you're trying, but it's not good enough, because, and I know we can't compare ourselves to the way they do things overseas in a lot of ways. The other thing that bugs me is the almost complete absence of any sense of the importance of your intellectual property around here. I printed an article from the Jamaica Observer. This was printed on April 2nd, 2014. I just want to read a bit here. Most of you know the James Bond movie Dr. No. It was shot mostly in Jamaica back in 1961, I think. I think it was in the 1960s. That's for sure. Now you know that a big part of the atmosphere in that movie is the music, and they hired the guy who got credited for the music is John Barry, who's everybody knows is a big European music composer. But they hired a Jamaican. A lot of people don't know they hired a Jamaican composer. His name is Carlos Malcolm, and they had a symposium last Friday, about 2 Fridays ago, on the business of Jamaica's music and cultural industries. And Malcolm admitted that his inexperience and lack of knowledge about the entertainment industry is a reason for him not being compensated for 53 scores he wrote for the film, based on British writer Ian Fleming's spy novels. This is where I made my big mistakes. I signed away what he did. He signed what you call a general release. Yeah. So now, if he had more knowledge about how important his intellectual property was, he would have been copyrighted for every single piece of music he wrote for that movie. So he's saying, I got paid as hired, you know, because I signed a general release. If you don't sign it, you would get paid every time the movie plays. After that, I went out and copyrighted everything I wrote. That's the greatest lesson of my life, and I think that's one of my focuses for tonight. We need to get the copyright thing going. We need people to understand that if a carpenter made that chair over there, and that's a pretty cool looking table over there, and I'm sure somebody came up with that idea, and there's no reason the carpenter can't be compensated for that. So why shouldn't Starshield be compensated for mental slavery? 20 years from now, somebody from Trinidad or wherever might decide to get up and recut that song, and if it turns out that Starshield hadn't had that song copyrighted, who do you think is going to get paid?
Exactly.
And then again, in this day when we're hardly selling any CDs, it's basically all about downloads. I mean, every single cent counts, in the sense that, hey, every single way that you can make that $1 US for every download you sell, if you do sell a few CDs, or if somebody covers it for a movie or something, or we really need to get our act together as far as the copyrighting of our music. We'll get into the aesthetics of our music later on, but I think it's really important that we get a sense of history and we give more value to the intellectual property of the music that we create.
I mean, that's a critical component of what we're discussing tonight. Copyright, collecting, royalties, publishing your music. I mean, making sure, as you say, that, hey, 10, 15, 20 years down the road, you're still collecting something, or your family's collecting something, as I'm sure, the folks who were left behind by Arrow in Montserrat. I mean, you know, collecting royalties, and it's a shame because back.
Tell you this, you know that a few weeks ago, Arrow's brother, you know, who wrote the bulk of his songs, Justin, he got inducted into the, I think, his Billboard Songwriters Hall of Fame because of Hot Hot Hot. I heard Tony mention it. I was trying to find the story online, but you know, it's important because you always hear artists talk about how even if they're not in the industry active, they always talk about how helpful those little checks. You know, they come in every now and then.
And it's very important. Hey, I'm gonna give a short story and then I'm gonna let you guys go. 1987, when Adrian brought his studio here first, I recorded a little stupid song called "Jump Carnival Jump." And because I registered every single thing that I did, I got royalties for it. Junie.
I'm concerned about the future of the music as a business, as I think Adrian alluded to it, and the brother here, and that is a main point for me. I mean, I've been involved in the music on the radio as a DJ. I'm involved in the music as a promoter back in the 70s of Black Roots Calypso Tent, which tried to expose as much Calypso and Calypsonians as possible. But he mentioned that the future looks bleak for music. And I think that's a very interesting point, because we know that artists in St. Kitts and Nevis are frustrated by the lack of support from government and the private sector. I mean, we're a small island. One of the things, I lived in Jamaica for 4 years, and one of the things that touched me, I mean, I saw Bob Marley, Peter Tosh, Bunny Wailer on the campus before they came big. And this was back in the 70s. And one of the things that Bobby kept saying is that music is a business. Music is a business. And we need to look at that, because a lot of artists are frustrated by not getting their work out. Jamster referred to the intellectual property rights. I think one of the things you said was that you don't have Starshield and Arrow and the other Calypsonians have their master tapes and so on. But when you look at the contribution of these artists, sure, they were accepted locally, not regionally, not internationally. How do we get out regionally and internationally? Because that is where the money is. One of the things that pains me is that we can't point to a successful artist in St. Kitts other than Joan Armour Trading, perhaps, in the United Kingdom. Joan Armour Trading is a superstar, but she has lived all her life, basically.
Who probably a lot of people here don't
know. Exactly. But she's from St. Kitts.
Yes.
And she made her base in the UK, and she has stayed there and made a big name for herself in North America and Europe. We can't point to one successful artist who has lived here and say, look, this man has made it. Look at how he is set up. Look at how he has moved. We could point to Ellie Matt, but he hasn't really made it as far as we're concerned. The music has made it. But himself and getting back into the business of the music, we don't see that happening. So my contention is, how do we break the cycle by getting our artists exposed, get the necessary production, and get... Yes, Adrian?
No, go ahead.
You wanted to tell me? I wanted to find out, how do we get our artists promoted so that they become household names in the Caribbean and Europe? Look at Rihanna from Barbados. What has she done that has endeared her to North America and Europe, worldwide? I mean, she's like a household name in Japan, in Russia, wherever. That is the same type of success that we want for our artists here. How do we get their names out there, their music out there, their message out there? That is the challenge for our musicians in St. Kitts and Nevis.
Yes, Johnny, it is a challenge, and I agree with everything you said there, but I think one of the things that we have to change, and all of us said it in different ways, the respect. I think myself and Asim touched on it differently, but well. The respect that people get when you go away to study and you say, well, I'm going to study music, is not there. Why? Because, and it's not just St. Kitts and Nevis, I think that in the Caribbean as a whole, we don't have respect for our culture, our artists, and music in general.
Adrian, I'm going to disagree with you.
Wait, let me make the point though. We don't have respect from the business side. We have respect for people who play music, but we don't have respect for people who doing it as a professional. Because, oh yeah, come and play for my party now, you could expose yourself. Even if you're playing for 10 years, oh, why you don't just come down there? People pirate people's music. People take up the artist's music and use it in ads. Nobody gets compensation. That's something that's rampant in St. Kitts. There's no respect for music as a work. In European society, the French society is the highest, the oldest musical societies in the world in terms of collecting royalties, the French. We have a royalties act, a copyright act that was signed in 2000. Up to 2014, 14 years later, there has been no effort to educate, to try to collect royalties, to do anything regarding that act. That's like passing an act to say, well, okay, I should not go in Junior Liber's house to steal, but every time somebody go in, it's okay, because it's something that's accepted by the society. That is one of the major reasons why the music industry, as separate from the music as a hobby, is not going to thrive, because in our own society, we don't have any respect for the business of the music. So we have to get accustomed that if I'm a writer, not an artist, a writer, and I say my song to sing, he gets his song for performance, he gets his money from performance, I get mine from the royalties, which Monarch said a while ago, he got some for Jump Carnival. Now, this is the crux of the matter. Harold made more money from the royalties coming in from Hot Hot Hot, he and his whole writing team, than probably any other Calypsonian got from any other song. Now, there are a few other songs, that in the Caribbean that have been big. But the organization, Rihanna got where she got, not because of anybody in Barbados. It was because Jay-Z signed her to his organization, and the management knew what they were doing. Simple. Look at all the other successful artists that we have had from the Caribbean who really have not functioned inside of the Caribbean, have functioned outside of the Caribbean with good management. We have people like Bunji Garlin getting signed by VP Records, which is probably going to transfer to a bigger record company sooner or later. You had Beanie Man being signed to the bigger record company.
VP is distributed by
Atlantic Records, correct. Marshall Montano. Marshall has had tunes signed, Disney movies and things like this. So they're into the system and they do things properly. Our problem in most of the islands is not the St. Kitts, is that we don't do things properly. Most of the, you have pirates all over town. How can we have a respect for music industry when you have pirates all over town? There's no policeman going to arrest anybody. They're breaking the law in the wide open, Not a policeman approaching anybody. DVDs all over the place. That is also an infringement on music too, because music can do the same things. What do we do? So until we have our case clearly outlined and respect for the Copyright Act which exists, it's in law, we're not going to get very far, because if in your own society you can't make money, then how are you going to make it somewhere else? That means I'm not going to register with the society that's collecting for St. Kitts, which is ECHO. I'm going to register BMI or PRS. We're outside and coming back in. So I think this is one of the big things we have to deal with, because there are some good songwriters, not so much in just the soca sphere and the reggae sphere. There are young people writing some unbelievable things in St. Kitts right now. The problem is they need help with management and the business side of things, because where they're going to make money is not going to be in St. Kitts. It's going to be like Rihanna.
But it seems as if though everybody's fighting for a bigger piece of the shrinking pie, instead of thinking of baking a bigger and tastier pie. I mean, is that the case here in St. Kitts? Yes. Well, yeah, I mean, in St. Kitts.
What do you mean exactly, guys?
Yeah, you got to define exactly what you're talking about.
The question that I'm asking though is, I mean, is there something that we're not talking about right now? Well, the reason why, I mean, we're making, because some of the music here is very, very good.
To put it bluntly, there are people making music in St. Kitts and Nevis who would like to make money from music. There are people making money from the music, but it's not the artists or the songwriters. Let's be very blunt about it. Those people are the pirates. The pirates on the road, but there are pirates who are not on the road too.
You understand?
Every time you cut an ad and you use a Small Axe or New Vibes tune, that's an infringement. Those people, New Vibes don't get paid for that. So the songwriters, I mean, this is something that has to stop. That is part of our industry. You think that could happen in Jamaica or in Trinidad?
Well, just
it will not happen.
For Facebook users alone. I mean, I'm sure if you guys have the experience of seeing how quick they take down anything that you put up on Facebook, that's infringing.
But a lot of artists release their music through Facebook and these social media. I mean, you can download albums and music and so on. And my contention is, since the advent of the social media, there's not much money to be made, because why buy something when you could download it?
When you could get it for free. That's what you're saying. Buy it when you could get it for free.
Exactly.
Point.
That's
what I'm saying, Jamsa.
Well, the thing is, there's kind of like a thin line between the whole question of, well, something getting taken down and all that, because a lot of times that's where actually you build the buzz, through the social media you build the buzz, and then people, I mean, there's been study after study that proves that, it might seem counterintuitive, but study after study has proven that sometimes when you give away the music, or people get a free download, they actually go and buy the album.
Well, that's been done.
It's been proven.
Coldplay, for instance, released, not the last one, the one before, the album for free. They made more money off that album than any of their previous albums, and it was free.
Exactly.
You understand?
Okay. But they made the money, let's make it clear, not from the sales, but from the royalties.
What they did was, you could have downloaded a lower quality version for free. If you liked it, you could have donated. They didn't even get a price. Donate. The problem was releasing their music themselves, not having a distribution deal where that money had to be split. They got a bigger piece of the pie and ended up making more money overall. But I think we don't have to reinvent the wheel. Like, that's my thing, is it's already been laid out, and it's being done even now with islands as close as Anguilla. Like, the last man I went on tour with is from Anguilla, with a lead singer from St. Kitts.
What's the name of that man?
British Dependency.
Oh yeah, they were here, yeah.
So you have a lead singer from St. Kitts, bass player, mother from St. Kitts, drummer father is from St. Kitts, and they're out there touring. We was on tour with the Whalers for months. You understand? So it's already being done. How did they do it? One, they focused on
what kind of music they playing?
It's reggae.
Okay.
It's reggae.
Right.
But
they have an international kind of sound.
They have their sound. Like, okay, for instance, right? I don't think it's about what genre it is. Good music is good music, and there's people that's gonna appreciate good music.
Right.
But that's where you have to focus. You have to focus on the product, and it's not only the product, but the way that you market that product and the way that you brand it. For instance, we talk about proper management and all of this thing, right? Managers, their job is to sell a product. There's no artist development anymore. There's no go to a club, see a guy that could sing and work out organ, make him a star. That doesn't happen anymore. What happens is they see you have a buzz, and they want to jump on it. And you take that deal because they have connections that you don't have.
So it's all about money then, for the manager.
But if we talk, but that's the job. They're not artists. They're not worried about a message. That's the artist. The artist has a responsibility to really put out music somebody told me one time, music is like food, right? It's like you're cooking. So make sure you taste your pot before you put it out. You understand where I'm coming from? A lot of people don't do that. But then when you have a good tasting pot now, it ain't enough to just have good food. You can't give me good food in a brown paper bag. Put it on a plate. The presentation is key. You understand? Now when somebody see that now, they walk out, but this fellow got a good product here. Let me help him market it. You understand? But like you said, the copyright issue is a big, big, big issue, because that's the first place that you get compensated for what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean it's huge. But Jamster, I mean, how, as a DJ, how do you take this good music out of the brown paper bag, and I mean, make sure that people are clamoring for it?
I'm glad you brought up that, because it comes back to what I was saying earlier. A lot of artists, it's a discretionary thing. A lot of artists I know they know. Hey, I could come down like a ton of bricks on this guy for using my song on a mixtape or on Twitter or whatever. But most of them probably figure, no, let me just leave it because it helps to it helps to build buzz. It's good PR.
Sir, could you give me an example of where that has happened in the United States or Jamaica?
No, there are a lot of bands like I'm trying to think. Fish. There's this band from...
Yeah, but Fish was compensated with royalties for whatever. They didn't prevent the band from using it. They used it, but they would still get the royalties.
And the Grateful Dead, you know how they
there's a difference with that.
Encourage people.
Yeah, but there's a difference with that. Let's make it clear to somebody using something and not getting any royalties for it.
I agree. Fair use. That's
not only that, but the Grateful Dead was already a big band. They already have their buzz. They came out in the 60s, 70s, and they already developed that name too. So like, they're not looking for that anymore.
True.
You know what I mean? But the guy that in the bedroom, and just really want to do this and using the limited resources that he have and still producing something that people want to listen to. Like, how is he not compensated?
You see, it just depends on how some of the artists look at it. Like, I mean, the guys, Metallica, these guys get on like dirt bikes when it comes to people. Even just sharing their music with people and stuff, right? In my case, I've had instances where I want to use certain local music for ads. Sometimes I might think New Eyes might be just, but I know sometimes I'm like maybe I should find another thing, because a lot of the times the local bands, sometimes they don't see what you see in the sense of I'm not saying you can ask me to pay a little bit of money, but sometimes what you're doing with the music might actually generate a little more buzz for them, and sometimes they don't see it.
Okay. Hey, Trevor, hold that thought. We're gonna take a break, and we're gonna come back. I mean, to delve more into the music industry here in St. Kitts. Now, one of the things that I want to look at, I mean, this year we celebrate the 18th anniversary of our music festival. I mean, we've had people come from, talented artists from every, region in the world you can think of. I mean, how come nobody's really made it in those 18 years? We'll take a look at that when we come back on the round table.
Blood pressure, which puts you at risk for heart attack, stroke, or kidney disease. And because you don't know you're at risk, you feel totally normal until you don't. So take charge of your health while you can by making one small change. Have your blood pressure checked twice a year. If it's high, your doctor can help you lower it.
The government of St. Kitts and Nevis recently passed legislation that reduces the time limits for residency applications for non-nationals working in St. Kitts and Nevis. Nationals from non-OECS countries who have resided in St. Kitts and Nevis and have had valid work permits for the last 3 years are now eligible for annual residency in St. Kitts and Nevis. Annual residency removes the need for annual work permits for these individuals. No changes have been made to the residency requirements for citizenship. For more information regarding this initiative, visit the Ministry of Homeland Security office in Port Zanti, St. Kitts, or call 467-1209 for more information. The Ministry of Homeland Security, doing its part in support of regional integration.
Okay, welcome back, and we're in our final hour of the round table for this week here in ZIZ. And I was asking the question about the music festival. We're about to celebrate the 18th anniversary of our music festival, and I mean, we've had a ton of local artists who performed on the music festival, and I mean, St. Kitts has a big show feel. That's I mean, one of the reasons why I'm thinking, why are we even having this discussion? I mean, we have every big major artist you can think about who has performed in St. Kitts, and people have gotten the opportunity to see these artists. Junior, what do you think about that?
I think that there's a lack of support and respect for our musicians. locally. Like you find people, society tends to look outside for everything. It's like in government. If people expect things to happen, they expect to get something from outside before they kind of bring about change from within. So we tend to look outside and not inside. Support is given to anyone from overseas. We don't big up our artists as we should. I find, for instance, radio stations here should be playing more local music. We don't play a lot of local music. We play a lot of reggae, we play a lot of soca, but what about the local music? If we're going to be saying we want to big up Highlight, and we want to big up Infamous, and we want to big up soca acts, and we want to big up bands, but how come we're not playing their music? What happened to their music? We need to play their music. So the music festival, what I'm saying, Monarch and fellow panelists, is that we have this crab in the barrel syndrome for our musicians and our music. Let's look at the music festival. We've seen the bands performing on the music festival, the acts, all the artists. Right now there's a big cry to put Highlight on the music festival, a cry which I support and endorse fully. But we have other acts as well. I think the music festival should be a jumping, a lightning rod, if you will, for other acts to come through. I've heard they've called my station and people are saying, look, why they don't have a local night at the music festival so we can support our own and big up our own? I say, are you ready for that really? Are you ready for a local night? Do you think we'll get an overwhelming crowd at the music festival if they were just local acts there, compared to if you bring in somebody from like a Marshall Montano and a reggae act such as what's this new guy who has a #1 on reggae Billboard right now? Chronics and so on. These are the acts the young people want to see. Who has been identified in St. Kitts and Nevis that will be able to carry the mantle? My suggestion is it's not just one person. We have to look at who is out there making the music, who is producing the music, who has that international sound that could go and take it to a next level. These are the things we need to look at. The music festival has to serve its purpose, which is to help young artists, struggling artists, get their music out, but they also have to have quality. They must have standard. And if they don't have that...
I think we're mixing up the terms there, because the objective of the music festival is to provide an instrument that will bring in people into St. Kitts and stimulate our tourism industry at a time that is quiet.
So we're looking at the rock festival.
Maybe we're looking at it. I agree. 100%. I've been part of the Homegrown Festival, working with Crucial Donkey. And when you look at the turnout for the Homegrown Festival, is very small.
Right.
And that is the problem. We do not support
local people.
Where I agree with you. We do not support our own. And that is the problem. If you had one night with all local, people ain't going to that night.
What about if the quality improves though?
Okay, let me give an example, right? We're talking about the music festival, so it's interesting. We have Chronics coming to the music festival this year, right? Chronics is from Jamaica. People would say that Jamaicans support local music. Anybody would say that's what happens.
Jamaicans support each other.
They support each other. Okay, well, let me show this example to you then. Chronics right now could be considered a reggae star, correct? Chronics in 2011 was... his song Behind Curtains was the Kenyan Song of the Year in 2011. Chronics in 2013 was Best New Artist in Jamaica. You understand where I'm coming from? So this thing about locals not supporting their own and how that plays into it, that's only one piece of the pie. The truth is, once you conduct yourself properly, you handle your business, you produce quality music. The truth is, there are a lot of acts out of the Caribbean that only get recognized at home after they get recognized outside.
Correct. True.
That happens everywhere, and it happens in the States. It ain't only it just happens like that. You have Kings of Leon. I saw Kings of Leon in Orlando playing in a bar for 50 people, and got on a plane the next day and played Glastonbury Festival in Europe. You understand? At home, nobody was studying them. But in Europe, they were a huge band. You understand? And I think really what it is, when we talk about the impact and why there's not more local people on the music festival, we really have to look at the artists and look at the music. If the music is good, that's only one part of it. You're gonna go to somebody who's in charge, sitting on a panel, deciding who's gonna be here for the music festival this year. A local artist presents their case, right? What is your case? Like, if I'm a promoter, right? I'm doing a show. I want people that can bring people inside the gate. And if I can't assure myself that you're gonna bring people inside the gate, I at least need to assure myself that you are gonna entertain the people that eventually come to the gate. But when you as a local artist go, you don't have a press kit, you give somebody a CD in a folder leaf.
Thank you.
You understand? You go up on stage now in a stocking cap, holding your crutch the whole time. Like, really, like what we really want to put out there. Like, I really wonder if I really want that to be what's placed out there. You want to go and perform for 5,000 people, but haven't even made an attempt to perform for 500. What shows, even if you're unsuccessful, it's like you make a bid. Why don't we put me on music festival this year? But where was the bid to put me on This Is Anniversary Bash? Where was the bid to put me on even the high school prom committee show? Where was the bid for those things? But you want to go on the music festival? No, everything takes time. You build your work and your craft, and you get recognized for that.
I'm glad you said that. And this dovetails nicely with what he's saying. I had a talk with a friend last week. I don't remember who it was, and he was basically saying some of the things I've always said. To follow up on what he's saying, what's this, the 18th year of the music festival? He was saying that all these years, in his opinion, and I totally agree with him, the local artists, the bands, they don't seem to have really learned anything from the mashalls. I mean, the soca bands don't seem to have learned anything from the stage show and all the stage dynamics of a
the entertainment value.
Exactly. Because what he's saying is that a lot of these guys, they don't even go to the shows. My thing is, and then I said,
one thing
as a clinic.
I'd like to add to what you said.
Yeah.
One of the things that astounds me, when we do sound checks,
yeah.
You know what I'm going to say, right? When we do sound checks, as a musician, for years, I always want to be there to see what is Jamaica, foreign, American, British, whatever bands have to offer, and to see the musicians, check the sound, the engineers, whatever. There's a lack of enthusiasm by our musicians and some of the peripheral staff. They don't come around to see the sound checks. The music festival committee has no problem with musicians being in there to see the sound checks.
They're doing that in school, skipping school to do that.
Exactly. But I can't tell you the last day. I could tell you there are just a few people who come and check out the musicians or whatever they want to be interested in during the sound checks. And it's the same people every year.
But not only that, just to network.
Could it be
exactly?
Could it be though that we're maybe paying some of these guys? Because I mean, I don't promote shows, but I talk to people who promote shows all the time. And I mean, the kind of money that I'm here, some of the local bands, especially bands, and artists as well too, because we ran into the same issue when we tried to do our bash the other day for our anniversary here at ZIZ. I mean, is it that we're paying these guys too much money so they're not really interested in, I mean, you know, making any more or breaking through on the regional scene? I mean, you know, going to New York and playing down in Brooklyn instead of, you know, in the Bronx at the bakery that they normally do?
No, I don't even think that's the issue.
No, because let's put it this way. You're talking about paying too much money. How many of these guys playing in these bands are professional musicians? So if they're getting paid too much money, well, wait,
well, I was looking at it more from the promoter's point of view. I mean, I hire a band because I say, well, okay, you know, they're going to bring people into the yard. But they bring people into the yard, yeah, but at the end of the day, the promoter goes home without any money.
Well, that comes back to my original point. I don't think that we in the Caribbean generally have a respect for the arts the way we should have. Jamaica and Trinidad, we don't know how to pay for entertainment. If I go to the States and I want to see Rihanna, I gonna fork out $200 US to go and see Rihanna or Beyonce, all these big artists. But I come in St. Kitts and 100 EC is too much money. It reflects right back down to going. If I go to a dance with Small Axe and New Vibes, I don't want to pay $30. That's too much money. We don't have any respect. We want to back them. We love New Vibes, and but we don't want to support them monetarily. They do a CD, we don't want to buy that CD. We want to get it for free. But so how does the music business grow if you're not going to get the people who support you to invest in you? I don't know how that works.
We talk about respect, but
hold on thought, Azem. While Azem get ready to answer that, we're going to open the lines now so that callers, viewers, listeners can weigh in. Our number is 466-2666. That's 466-2666. And you can join us, join the conversation. We welcome all your ideas. Looks like the phone is going off, but while we wait on that, Azem, go ahead with the point that you were about to develop.
I was talking about the respect, and I do agree that there's not that respect, but whose responsibility is it to get respect? Yeah. Do I just expect you to respect me because I must carry myself in a way and demand that respect? For instance, if I'm contracted to play for a show or whatever, and I believe that my worth is XYZ, right? When you come and tell me you can't pay XYZ, and the only reason you could tell me is because that's too much money, and I come and play still, I didn't respect myself. You understand where I'm coming from?
I'm glad you said that, because that happens
Just
to me.
hold that point. Okay. We want to get the callers in, so let's take this. Let's take this call. Good evening, caller. Welcome to the round table. Hello.
Hello.
Yes, go ahead.
Hello.
Yes, are you hearing us?
Billy.
Yes, I am.
Hello?
Yes, I'm hearing you. Go ahead. We're hearing you.
Okay. Yes. Good evening, gentlemen. I just managed to run. So a couple of good.
Okay, Carl, it sounds like your phone's cutting in and out, so maybe you need to grab a better line and give us a call back.
Let me call back.
Okay, thank you very much. Go ahead, Jamster.
What's your point about respect? Because it happens to me as a DJ who gigs around. Sometimes and it comes back to what you were saying about the technology, the computers. Because the advent of computers and so now everybody thinks they're a DJ. Mm-hmm. So everybody,
okay, Jamster. Let's see if this caller is a DJ. Good evening. Welcome to the round table. Good evening. Caller, you with us?
Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
Hello?
Yes, we're hearing you loud and clear. Go ahead.
Mr. Ogaro, good evening. And let me say good evening to the entire panel.
Good evening.
Junie and Jamster and everybody who's on the panel. I was just listening and entertaining the thought that I don't think on the monarchy were trying to ask what are the problems maybe facing music in St. Kitts and Nevis. But I think it is is much more than we just having music festival and putting people on the music festival. Let's look at Carnival. When the bands are preparing for Carnival, which is the road, the biggest tune to get the road map cycle is $10,000. But if you evaluate how much money they would have to spend to get themselves prepared for that occasion, and you sit back and you look at the events in terms of which takes place for Carnival in terms of the entertainment, sometimes the dance can't pay for the lights. You can always go to another situation. We hear people complaining that the bands are coming out too late to their music. But do they really get enough sponsors coming on board to be able to help them as compared to a Trinidad and Tobago and as maybe compared to Antigua and Barbados, where the private sector gets involved in the festival? And I think that's what Junie was trying to talk about and Adrian in terms of respect for the artists. So the bands here, they go to the banks, they go to National Development Bank, they go to the banks, they take loans to be able to buy instruments. They sometimes maybe get duty-free off of some of the stuff they have to prepare for Carnival. But when it's all said and done, based on the events that they have around, the dance maybe sometimes you can't even pay for the lights. Some of the guys, I heard somebody was talking about how much of these guys are professional musicians. Some of the hotels here don't maybe even employ some of these bands, something which Adrian was fighting for years outside us since Toucan has left I don't think that we have had an established crew where we can say when you go to a hotel, you have a lot of local bands getting an opportunity to be able to make some money during the season. So you still have the fly-by-two people in terms of Star Shield and maybe Socrates. But how many of the local bands get an opportunity to play in our big hotels, whether it is Four Seasons or the Marriott consistently, where they can know they have an income coming in? I think all these are issues that we maybe need to try and see if we can deal with. Plus, we also have to understand that the music industry has changed drastically since the advent of digital distribution of music. So gone are the days when somebody would come and produce a record, like when we had the Elemats and the Hour, and they would make money. Now that has changed. Since 2000, sales has dropped in that region because we live in a musical age now where somebody can put together something in their bedroom, put it out there on Facebook, as Mr. Bailey was making, and they can maybe make more money than if they went into a studio. There's also studio cost which comes into bearing. Some of these people just barely make it. We had examples where some Calypsonians for last carnival did not participate because they didn't have money to even go to either IPA to ABBA to even record their own music. And these are serious situations, and these are people who they only just come for the carnival to maybe perform, but they don't have any returns because there's no real mechanism of anything set up to help them. And so Adrian was saying that he's hoping that his organization is going to take one more shot at it again to bring it back on stream. Maybe if we have that organization back on stream, it might be able to help some of these artists that we have. Look at the Soca Monarch show this year in terms of the music that we had come out this year. Over 60-something CDs were sent into the National Carnival Committee, which shows you that there are people outside there who are trying to create music. What is actually happening? We don't have anybody to be able to manage that music now or to guide these people to the next level. And I think that's maybe where we should take the discussion.
All right, Carla, thank you very much for your input. You made some very important points, and I mean, took us to Carnival, and hopefully we'll get to that. If not, I guess we're going to have to do a whole round table on the Carnival. But we got another call online. All right, caller, welcome to our round table tonight. Okay, looks like we missed that one. Let's see what the other caller has to say. No calls? All right, so, I mean, let's go back. Well, let's talk a little bit about, Carnival. And I know the caller just mentioned the fact that, people are not getting paid or whatever it is. But, I mean, come on. Looking at the, as you guys say, I mean, yes, people need to get paid. But I'm not going to go to the store and buy a second-rated product and pay a first-rate price for it. I mean, what do you guys think about that?
He made a lot of good points. But one thing that's jumped out at me was what he said about, for example, the bands not getting the opportunities to play in the big hotels. But it comes back to something as him said earlier. And Adrian, if the musicianship isn't there, I mean, you can't go in Four Seasons and be playing running drum machine stuff for 90 minutes, and you have to go and play an eclectic set because they're not interested in rhythm box.
Exactly. All right, Jamson, let's take this next call and see what we want to talk about. Good evening.
Hello, good evening.
Yes.
Quick question. This is ZIZ Online. I think this program is broadcast internationally, right?
Correct.
Okay. My question is, how come the discussion is about the future of music in St. Kitts and not St. Kitts Nevis?
The future of music in well, in the Federation, that's what we're discussing.
Oh, okay, good. Because I know Nevis has produced a number of musicians who have played with Elimat and toured all over with them.
Mm-hmm. True.
Okay, good. My 2 cents on your program tonight. My concern is that we have band men and not musicians, because we have a lot of persons who plays music but don't know the basic of music, and basically they don't know that the music is the first 7 letters of the alphabet. And we have a problem. We don't have anyone documenting the music via score sheets. I mean, I'm sure you can go in a music store and see music from back from 1800s and 1700s. Who is documenting our music on score sheets? I mean, the world could, any power station could break down, any radio station can break down. But if a youngster in the near future can want to sing music, he can have to learn to read music. Most of our musicians, bandmen, can't read music. So we need to go back to music education, and that is our problem right now. Those so-called musicians need to go into the primary schools and start to teach music from scratch. That is a major challenge right now for the music program. So you need to get persons to come on board and start to educate our young kids to read music, so that when you have an international artist who comes here, can actually take a score sheet and read it. So that is what we have to look towards for the future. I mean, if we could rant and rave about royalties and so forth like that and passing the law, but if the children of today don't know what is actual score sheet, a whole note, a half note, and what the value is, and to read it and interpret it, we're our musicians. We don't have proper organists in churches now. Everybody's playing by ear. YouTube is the most educated place to go and learn a song quickly. But to learn it from scratch, most persons, the kids of today, don't have anyone to teach them. So when we are ranting and raving about royalties, we need persons to come into the schools to educate the kids about reading music, and then you can make a bigger effort to get persons to raise the standard of playing our music. Okay, that's just my 2 cents. Thank you very much. Good night, Adrian.
Interesting points, caller. Thank you very much for contributing tonight. We're going to move along with another call. Good evening. Welcome to the roundtable.
Good evening, panelists. The last speaker was very correct. We need to train our young people into playing music and appreciating music, and to get rid of violence that exists between them. How many musicians you hear getting fights or have guns and shooting down one another? Music is good food for the soul and for the upliftment of the human being. Coming to our music, which is supposed to be exported, how can we export the calypsos we play at carnival time? Anti-country. How do you sell somebody a music that you're talking about your country in a negative manner? How do you want to play in a hotel to tell the tourists them that think it's no good? And the quality must improve. And if you want to be a music person, a big star in music, why not practice? You make up a song, you play it once or twice, and you want them to include you on the music festival. That isn't how it goes. When you study music or when you're learning music, you have to go on the piano every day. And you got to practice and practice and practice until you reach a certain stage. Our musicians want to sing a song today and want to go on music festival tomorrow, when the local audience have not even accepted the song or the music as good. So we need to go into the schools, we need to teach music, and we need to improve the quality of the music we produce. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And I agree, we need to improve the quality, but when we improve the quality, somebody still has to go out there and sell that. That's how we're going to make, create an industry. So let's hear what the other caller has to say. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Rusty Liebert. And I probably work with most of you on the show. I don't think I know the chap as in Bailey, but I've worked with most of you before. And one of the concerns to me, one of the things I would like to get is for some more discussion on the music industry. I'm a person in public relations. I've done a lot of work with Jamson Commercial. I've done some work with Adrian in getting music for me and stuff. I did commercials on Freedom FM and so on. But I want us to focus on that. One of the problems I have when I produce a commercial, I'm worried that the artists, I usually use local artists, I'm worried that they can call me and say, well, you're using my song and you haven't paid and stuff like that. I'm really concerned about things like that. But if it's an industry, I'm a PR person. I do commercials for people. I do different things like that. It's an industry. One of the things you guys spoke about is why our music are not out there. And for me, it's a topic. I think it's what they do with the topic. A lot of you might remember Music in Jail. That's when the music started getting too fast for some of us who like the slow music, like going down 4th Street like you're crazy. That was a slow type of music. And then eventually, I think it was Jerry's Brass started coming with these fast music and music in jail and different speed of music. But what I want, though, is for us to talk a little bit more, give an artist an idea of how he or she can move his music as a business, from a business point of view. How do I look when I'm on stage? What's the artist I'm supposed to use? How do I prepare? Sound check, all that sort of stuff. So if you can give a little more discussion on how an artist can develop himself. If I'm interested, I'm in first form, fourth form, I'm interested in being an artist. What are the things that I need to concentrate on, look forward to? Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much for your call and your points just now. I want to say welcome to fans and friends on Freedom FM 106.5. They've joined the discussion tonight. We got another call. Good evening, caller. Welcome to the round table. Okay, seems as if that we lost that one. While we wait, Adrian, you wanted to say something.
Yes, one of the things that I've said for years that we should really do, well, at the education level, so in schools, is have a course where we introduce the kids to the different forms of music, just so that they have an idea of the different genres of music out there. I mean, they know calypso, they know soca, they know reggae, they know dancehall, but all the other types of music from all over the world that we have. Yeah. Available. I think just to broaden the spectrum and let them have an understanding. A lot of people in St. Kitts and in the Caribbean as a whole think, for instance, jazz is a foreign in terms of it being a European culture. What they don't know is that jazz is one of the only black art forms in music that was introduced from the slave culture that came across the Atlantic. They don't understand that. So early calypso developed out at the same time jazz was developing. There are many things that we don't understand and we might be ignorant, but that's because we were never taught. I think the earlier caller made some suggestions to that. I think, about getting in school. It's not just the academic and the technical. Mm-hmm. We have some of the best musicians who can read or write music. Mm-hmm. They play by ear. I mean, because he can read, is Stevie Wonder. I mean, he's one of the best keyboard players out there. I mean, so you don't have to learn.
Guys, I think we got 3 calls. Why not let's take these calls, because by the time we're done, it might be time to wrap up. And we realize that we really don't have enough time, even in 2 hours, to discuss and resuscitate our music. So good evening, caller. Welcome to the round table. Okay, so we lost that one. Let's try the second call. Good evening, caller. Welcome.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
Oh, yes. Yes, I wanted to make the point. I think Adrian made the point earlier that the music festival, I don't know if he suggested that the main goal or the goal of the festival is to have an event during the summertime to bring in visitors. While I agree with that, if that's the goal, it's the goal. I think the music festival as a government-funded and facilitated event, world-class event at that, there must be an obligation by them to do more to assist and facilitate the development of local musicians. And that could be done by ensuring that our local artists are featured as prominently as the international artists. Someone made the point earlier about putting all the local artists on one night. We know that wouldn't work because, as someone mentioned earlier, some of the locals do not have the respect for our local artists. So we have to find a way, a creative way, to mix our local artists with all the international artists that we are bringing in an effort to expose our local artists. And I'm not putting them on the stage with these big names. And so the festival must have as part of its mandate an obligation to promote local acts. I am constantly disappointed every year, in my view, with the lack of local artists on the festival. And it's not about our artists not having the quality. Because as far as I'm concerned, I've heard artists locally that have had, in my humble opinion, better quality music than a lot of the artists that we bring in and we pay big money for. In Dominica, Fuel Festival is held yearly, and 90% of the artists are local acts that nobody ever heard of outside of Dominica, but they make an effort to feature them because they know that's an opportunity for their local acts to be featured on an international world-class stage. One more point I'd like to make. Recently I've seen where governments from different islands throughout the Caribbean have appointed what we call cultural ambassadors. Now, in Antigua, you have people like Claudia Peters, Tian Winter, Onion Unkwa, all cultural ambassadors. Just recently in Grenada, we had the roly-poly guy named the cultural ambassador. For years, ever since I was in college, WCK, I know cultural ambassadors, I think, from Dominica. Is it time for us to do that here in St. Kitts? It's something that our local acts, again, can aspire to. They know if they reach a certain level, they could be so recognized by the government and thus have some something to look forward to, so that they could, and the government in turn would use them just as a tourism product. Just as you try to market the island, you use them to market the country or the island as cultural ambassadors. And I think it's something that needs to be implemented, and it's something that can be used as well to encourage our younger, our local artists, something that they can aspire to, along with the music festival.
All right, well, thank you for your contribution. Go ahead, Junie, real quickly. We got a couple more calls.
Good points made by the callers, right? But I support the fact that we need to find a creative mix, if you will, for the music festival in showcasing our talent. We mentioned, he said some things, but if he was listening carefully, we mentioned the lack of support from the government and the private sector and the need for more performances, more local performances on the international stage, such as the music festival and carnival and so on. And we mentioned the lack of support by the general public. But when we look at the music festival as a musical entity in itself, how can we showcase, and this is something I want to throw to Asim here, how can we use the music festival to showcase our local acts? We're already doing that. I mean, a lot of acts have gotten the spotlight over the past 18 years for the music festival. What other creative way, because we need to put this out there, what other creative way can we use for the music festival, for carnival, whatever big festivals that we have on the island, to showcase our local acts? Now, Antigua is having a music festival in May, I understand, Infamous, right? It's signed up for it. This is my understanding.
Next week.
Is next week?
Yeah, 24th, yeah.
Okay, next week. How can we get more of our local acts around the Caribbean in that way, in Trinidad, in Barbados? I mean, what do we need to do to take to...
I think we need to build a recognized industry.
Junie,
before you answer though, Adrian, I think we got a couple more calls. Yes, we got a couple more calls. So good evening, caller. We're going to take a few more calls and then we're going to wrap up. Good evening. Hello?
Hello, good evening.
Go ahead.
Hi.
Yes.
Hi, I'm trying to get on.
Yes, go ahead. You're on.
Yes, man. I want to just... By the way, I'm St. Clair Library, better known as GQ. Let's love to everyone.
Good evening.
I just want to make the point that everyone has been kind of touching on all night, but I just want to sum it up in going forward and as a way to improve our music here in St. Kitts and Nevis. Over the years, we have developed in many areas. Adrian made some mention of that earlier in terms of sports development, doctors, lawyers, the list goes on and on. We're now in 2014 as a country that can stand up against any other country. And our people have went out and did what they have to do to be successful, whether it was taking their own loan to go and study to be a lawyer and be the best lawyer that they could be, or be the best doctor that they can be. We have people all over the world who are very successful in their trades and their craft. Some are engineers, some are not, some are plumbers, and the list goes on and on. The point I want to make is, in going forward in developing our music, we must first admit that we don't have the skills, and we need to get the skills. We need promoters, we need managers, we need engineers, we need musicians, we need people who can record, studio engineers, live engineers. The list goes on and on. To build a house, no one man can build a house. And we need to look at the industry as a house and build that house. If you're really serious about what you're planning to do in terms of making music, ask yourself, what am I good at? Am I a good bass player? Am I a good drummer? How can I develop my craft? How can I develop my art? Okay, I can't play music, but I'm very good at selling stuff. If we don't have these things in place, we can't go forward. If we have musicians here in St. Kitts and Nevis and they need to get outside, we need someone to carry them outside. We need a manager, someone who can call someone outside in New York City and say, hey, I got some guys here who can do this. We need a promoter who can walk the streets of New York and say, hey, this band is coming, come out and support them. We need to build an industry. That's all I have to say. Have a good night, guys.
I agree with you. Why don't we take this last call, and then we'll look to go around the table and wrap up. Good evening, caller.
Hello?
Yes.
Hi, good evening to my esteemed colleagues and the panel. I just wanted to make a point. I've been listening to the program, which I think is an excellent topic. I hope there's more that we will hear on all the radio airwaves here in St. Kitts and Nevis. The artist, I think first and foremost, has to take their craft seriously and conduct themselves as a business, as a brand. They need to move away from the idea of, oh, it's just fun, I like to do it, and start thinking, I want to make money from this talent, and I want to be doing it as my main stream of income. So in order to do that, they must invest in their career. It takes a team to build an artist. If you are a singer, you need vocal training. You need management to manage your business. You need a lawyer to deal with your with your contracts. You need to have a team of marketers and promoters around you. These things cost money. They're not for free. I think when the artists realize the worth of their talent, they will stop giving it away for free. There have been many opportunities for the artists to learn about copyright, about the industry. There's been workshops, there's been training sessions, and even St. Kitts Music Festival has made arrangement that when international artists come in to perform, that some of them actually do participate in a training workshop. And I heard a caller earlier mention, why don't the artists use the opportunity to network? Music Festival is a fantastic time for them to learn about the industry from the ones who have made it, who come in internationally, who come into the country for the show. They're easily accessible, even through Music Festival, to talk to them, to ask them questions, to get tips, and to learn. The second thing I want to say is about the industry. The industry has to step up, okay? In terms of local radio stations, the content of local music that's being played on the airwaves. If there was really support for the local artists here in St. Kitts and Nevis, the local radio stations wouldn't have to be pressured to already include, even if it's like a 5% content, local content, every day, all the time, to show their support for the artists, as well as paying royalties for the music that they're playing on the air for local artists. If an artist is registered with a collection agency, when their music gets played, they will get paid. So, we need to encourage the industry itself to step up. And I respect what people are saying about not appreciating the creative and cultural industry. We do take it for granted. We ask someone that has dedicated their life to writing music, singing music, playing music for 5, 10, 15 years to come and do something for free. I think that's an insult. If a lawyer or a doctor went away to study 5, 10 years, however long it takes to study for that trade, and then you said to them, oh, just deal with me for free. That's an insult, because that person has spent thousands of dollars to go away and study their trade and their skill, and they need to be paid for the time that they have sacrificed. Another way, publicly, when music is played in the public, everyone that plays music in the public, cafes, hotels, restaurants, etc., are supposed to be paying a license to play that music. When you pay the license, those monies go to the artist whose music you're playing. So again, royalties. So it's not only the artist that has to take the career seriously, it's also the consumer has to take it seriously. And as well as somebody mentioned earlier about the artist, who is buying their music? Who is buying their CDs? Do they care about that? They should. They should be selling their CDs and not giving it away for free. There's a time period when an artist would be selective and say, okay, this tune or these 2 tunes are promotional tunes, that I will give those away for free, but everything else that comes on that album has to be paid for. So you can make a decision of what to give away free to help promote yourself, but they need to understand the worth and the value of what they're doing and respect everybody else's skill. When you go into a man's studio, he has invested thousands of dollars to bring that equipment in and to pay and to build up that studio. He has electricity costs to pay. He has a life to live. He has expenses that he's incurred. So how can you step into a man's studio as an artist and expect them to do it for free? And as well as they also have to understand about copyright. I know that there's been a series of copyright and intellectual property workshops. I've spoken to some artists. I've invited them to attend. When I hear about it, they go, oh, I've heard that before. They hear it, but they're not applying it. They're not trying to overstand it. The Copyright Act, there is a Copyright Act here, yes, even though it might need some updating and certain things need to be put in place to enforce it, but at least the structure is there. It's accessible online. You can buy a copy of it from government headquarters inexpensively. The artists need to become familiar with the framework of this so that they understand how to exercise their rights. Performance is not the only way for them to generate income, although this seems to be the main way that the artists in St. Kitts and Nevis are focusing on for income generation. As one of the panelists mentioned before, writing music, that's actually where the money is at. If you're a writer of music and you copyright and register your music correctly, you can be making royalties off of that for years to come, even if you just have one hit. So it takes a better understanding from the artist. They need to get serious about their craft and educate themselves. And the last thing I'm going to say is that we need support in terms of education. There needs to be schools, people training, those who are interested in how to read music, how to write music, how to play music, how to become a manager, how to become an entertainment lawyer. There's a lot of lawyers here in the Federation, but I think I only know of one who is actually an entertainment lawyer, and they live off island. They come and they go in and out of St. Kitts. But we need more lawyers who are educated in the language of entertainment to properly advise the amount of artists that are here in St. Kitts and Nevis. So, great show. I hope to hear more of it. It's been very enlightening tonight.
Right. Thank you very much. And I know you mentioned, the caller mentioned royalties and groups paying royalties, and that is commonplace. Well, I shouldn't say it's commonplace in St. Kitts. It has taken place in St. Kitts, and as Adrian knows, the music festival pays their royalties every year. I've worked in international, the ICC, International Cricket Council, West Indies Cricket Board. They all pay royalties for, local performances or performances here in St. Kitts, regardless to where the artist is from. That to me is important. I think we're getting ready to close off, and I think that we've come to a point tonight of saying, really, we need an industry. I think we need an industry. Adrian, you wanted to say something.
Yeah, I was just saying that one of the unfortunate things that happen, music festival pays a lot of money to the Copyright Association, ECHO. Unfortunately, a lot of the local entertainers are not registered properly.
Exactly.
Therefore, they have royalties sitting down and nobody's collecting it because they're not registered. And they know that music was played and they know it's there. Somebody gonna get it, but it's who?
Same thing happened with the cricket in 2010.
Maybe that's why you gotta check.
Well, I'm properly registered. I'm not with ECHO as yet, but I mean, I started way back in the days before ECHO, where
Would be collecting for you because
yes,
they would pay.
I'm BMI.
So you
correct.
still get.
Yes.
But if nobody else is registered, then.
All right, well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a break for just a very short break, and we're going to come back and wrap up our round table tonight. Unfortunately, we don't have more time. Looks like we need a couple more hours. So, I mean, let's say this is part one for now. Yes, we will do a part two. So we'll take a short break. We'll come right back, and we'll wrap it up for the evening. Welcome back for our final segment this evening. Again, I want to say special thanks to all the folks who've made this possible. And I know the panelists, they haven't told me as yet, but I'm sure they're thinking about it, that there was one young lady at ZIZ who kept making sure that all the information was documented. So we want to say special thanks to Esther. I want to say thanks to Marlon and our crew as well, who has made tonight another success. What we're going to do is we're going to go around the room. We started with Junie first. How about we go with the youngest guy on the panel? Junie, nothing about your age, eh?
No. Age is just a number.
It's just a number. That's even if it's a US number.
I know about this thinking.
Well, I mean, some of the callers made some really great points.
Right.
And I always believe that if you want something to happen, you need to go out and make it happen. And it's the responsibility of all of us in the industry to do our part to make sure that the industry thrives. I mean, we say a lot about government helping and private sector funding, and all that should happen. But at the same time, why would anybody just give me money? You understand? If I want somebody to invest in me, I don't just go and say, give me money because you should give me money. I go with a business plan. This is what's gonna happen. This is how it's gonna affect you, and this is how you're gonna get returns on your money. That's how we need to approach it. It's business, and it should be dealt with as such. And I feel that the artists, they don't have a lot of guidance in terms of the steps to take to get to where they want to be. And it's not that it's hard to get that information either. You know, if you're an artist, if you're an engineer, videographer, all these people that play a part, stylists, makeup artists, all these people play a part in the industry that we're speaking about. And there's ways and means to get the information. There's workshops that are being put on. I was part of a workshop in November last year, where a band came and they were just talking about how they made it from Anguilla. That's even smaller than St. Kitts. How they made it out there and how they got to, and we sent out invitations and it was poorly attended, to be honest. But you know something, just like Adrian said earlier, the people that were there are the same people that come time and time again. And that gives hope, because you know there's some people that are serious about what they're doing. You have to really work on your craft, work on your product. Bear in mind that that's not all, because you have a good song doesn't mean that people are going to listen to it. How do you carry yourself? What's the artwork that goes along with the song, right? What's the brand? What's your brand? What's your look? What's your market? All these things you really have to be conscious about if you really want to make it in this business, because it is business.
All right, thank you very much, Azim. Jamster, quick, 1 minute, quick.
Okay. I kind of started addressing this earlier, but I think one of the key things is a lot of the musicians here can do is treat the music festival. We've been having it for 18 years. Treat the music festival like a clinic, like a 3-day clinic every year. Go and learn. I mean, go and look. If you're into soca, go and watch Machel and all these guys perform. See how they put their stage. Check out their stagecraft, the way they manipulate the crowd and all this kind of thing. It's $100 a night. Okay, maybe I sound like I live in La La Land. Everybody doesn't have $100, but the point I'm trying to make is, Adrian referenced the fact that a lot of people don't go to I try to come when I can, but there is so much to be learned in a really fun way, because you go to the show, you're enjoying yourself, but treat it as a clinic. If you're a musician and you want to improve your craft, the instrument, listen to all kinds of music. It's really easy. Listen to all kinds of music. I think we have to stop thinking. We have to stop thinking that, oh, we live in the Caribbean, so it's just about reggae and soca. Somebody has referenced earlier the fact that all these other elements are being incorporated in the music because of the cross-pollination that's going on between reggae and soca and everything else. I mean, Machel Montana had a song with Lady Smith Black Mambazo, for Christ's sake, out of South Africa.
Yeah.
Who would ever thought that would happen? He has songs with
good song
Pitbull.
too.
Great song. So, I mean, our music is stagnant now. The music hasn't changed for the last 15 years, I dare say. It has not changed. And it has not changed because we are not taking advantage of the opportunities that the simple opportunity to just go to this music festival and learn from what you see, learn from what you hear. We have access to the internet now. And the ironic thing is, I think people are more narrow-minded musically now than they were before we had the internet. Right. You have all this stuff at your fingertips. Listen to the music, watch movies, whatever it takes, and then we'll deal with the other technical stuff in part 2. But that's where we can start now. Right?
Well, there seems to be a loss of true musicianship. I mean, and I don't know. I mean, today, maybe it's because I, covet the era that I come from. I mean, I'm not as young as people think I am. Maybe I covet the era that I come from. But in addition to that, though, I think the key point, and I'm going to let Adrian and Junie wrap it up. The key point to me is, in addition to the fact that we really need to build our industry, to make, music where, we can sell our music, because, hey, we bought music that's not really so good. But because it was packaged so well, it was sold to us so well. And we went out and we bought it. So, we need to get to that stage. And Adrian, I'm tasking you with the responsibility of helping us.
Yes, I'm going to be very quick, because I know you're watching the clock. But there are many things we have to really do to make the business of music, a success in St. Kitts and Nevis. Education, music education, but the business of music, the education that goes with that, learning how to be a good manager or a good agent. Radio, there are lots of guys on radio who don't have a clue about other than what they play. I hear, they play just inside of this sphere that they know. Unfortunately, one of the things, although I agree the content could be more local, but then we always playing the same thing. We don't give a lot of other artists in St. Kitts who are doing other things, an opportunity to get that play. The influences, we're missing them. The African influence Jamster just spoke about with some of the soca artists in the region. We don't listen to the artists from these other regions, so we don't hear what they hear. So therefore, we don't do it. The wider your mind gets, the more things you could use, and that's one of the things I think that we're missing, the creativeness. Now, some of the biggest writers from the Caribbean, who nobody knows, are writing for Rihanna, are writing for a lot of the pop artists. Right now, there is an industry in the Caribbean that's doing very well, but nobody knows them, who are writing for a lot of the pop artists. There are camps that are being held all through the Caribbean with writers from the Caribbean writing for pop artists all over the world. The Caribbean has a creative element that they don't seem to have in other regions of the world, and when it comes to writing for pop, because the Caribbean rhythms and so are very, but it's not just about programming, it's about making pop music, and that's where the big money is. You spoke about Joan Armatrading, I think it was earlier. You know, we might not have a Joan Armatrading, but we could have somebody who writes a song that gets on a Beyonce album or gets on a Rihanna album, and that's big money. Now, that is what we need to have in St. Kitts. We need a Kim Collins in the music business to show, well, listen, you can be successful doing it in a positive way by having some money, some dollars in the bank. But it's not going to happen just by accident. Yep. It's not going to happen by accident.
I agree. We need a Peter Min show.
As far as I see, it's all about the growth and development of our music, St. Kitts and Nevis music. I think the time has come for the music to get the exposure and the marketing that it deserves, because from time immemorial we've had some great musical acts here, from Ellie Matt. I don't want to start calling names because I won't stop.
You get in trouble too.
I mean, we've had some great musical acts that have just graced our shows, graced our time, your time, my time, this young man's time. We really need to look at your organization, Snaps, as pointing the way for the future. How do we get the acts and the artists to coalesce, to come together, so that growth and development of the music is ensured? People mention about getting producers and writers and lawyers and everything and so on. But I think Snaps has a critical role to play in this area, in developing our music, in harnessing the skills. People speak about the skill set that we lack. But this is where Snaps would come in. I didn't know that the organization was 10 years old. But I think the time has come for people to make that move now to such an organization like Snaps to ensure that all the things that we've spoken about tonight can take place. And we need to look at extensively marketing our music on the traditional and non-traditional media outlets, not only radio and TV, but on the internet and so on, and get our acts to perform in other music festivals and do collaborations with artists who could really sell their music and harness their skills, so that international acceptance and acclaim would follow.
All right. Well, in a previous era, we had talented artists, musicians. Today, you don't have to be talented to be a singer, a musician, or an artist. The hype and the promotion can make an artist appear to be happening, even when we know the case is otherwise. And you know, the reason why I read that is because that happens to a lot of artists. I mean, look at Mr. Killer out of Grenada. All of a sudden now he's Mr. Killer out of Grenada, roly poly. And I make that point to say, you know what? We can do the same thing in St. Kitts. We can do the same thing in St. Kitts and in St. Kitts Nevis, for that matter. And that's the reason why we're going to continue this in 2 weeks. Again, we want to thank all of you for joining us tonight, whether you joined us via ZIZ, Freedom, or the internet. We thank you very much for sharing your time with us on the round table tonight. I want to say special thanks to the panel who took time out of their schedule to be with us here at ZIZ tonight. And we'll continue these every other week. So, I mean, you know, we're going to have a lot of discussions. A lot of the carnival didn't get into our conversation this year, even though I think that that's a critical component of how our music can develop and move, I mean, you know, to a level that, I mean, you know, people like me so long covet and desire. Anyway, thanks again for joining us. And we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Back like a flash. Okay, why hasn't he taken me off as yet?
Good evening, St. Kitts. Good evening, Nevis.
It is a historic moment for St. Kitts and Nevis,
special good night to those radio listeners, those viewing on television, and those following us via the internet.
And one of the things that I would like to see established in the CPL here in St. Kitts, as we can recall, the many entertainers, Gravy from Antigua, you had King Dial from Barbados, and a few others further afield.
Cricket World Cup 2007 proved that we are ready for the big league.
In stock, Formica countertops as well as a brand new stock of granite countertops starting at $877.50. A large new stock of kitchens beginning at $583.06. 6.5 horsepower portable water pumps at $1,521.
Everything at low, low prices, especially for you. Yeah!
Lots of tools. Chop saws are only $556.92. Miter saws are just $889.20. Chainsaws are $608.40. Weed eaters are $468. Lawnmowers are still available at a very low $427.06.
Hey Sparky, do you know any more English words?
Yeah.
Say one.
Galo galo.
Combination coalition government sacks one of its ministers. Our top story in this Monday edition of Caribbean Newsline. It's April 14th. Good evening. I'm Julius Giddens here at the CMC News Center in Bridgetown. The coalition government in Paramaribo has accused the Portaja Luhur party of engaging in what is called blackmail politics. The party leader, Paul Comohadio, confirmed that his organization is no longer a part of the government. In a statement released today, President Bouterse said the remaining party would continue to be a part of the government as agreed in the 2010 agreement which formed the coalition. Bouterse's National Democratic Party holds 23 seats, while the former rebellion leader Ronnie Brunswick's A combination has 3 seats. Now, today's sacking follows the departure of the New Suriname Party 2 years ago. Political observers say the split is no surprise, as there have been cracks in the coalition ever since the 2010 general elections. Also tonight, St. Lucia says it did nothing wrong when it imposed a 70% tax on goods coming out of Barbados. The duty, which goes into effect on May the 1st, has been a talking point in Bridgetown, with the president of the Barbados Private Sector Association, Alice MacDonald, calling for a level playing field. Bridgetown is yet to file a formal complaint on the move, but the permanent secretary in the Ministry of Commerce in Castries, Titus Preville, says Barbados was party to a decision of the Council of Trade and Development, Economic Development in CARICOM. That decision allows for lesser developed countries, which St. Lucia is a member of, in CARICOM, to implement a duty against those countries that are considered more developed.
Member states of the less developed countries were granted permission to adjust what we call, or implement what we call, Article 164 import duty rates on a select list of products. Barbados, Trinidad, Guyana, all member states of CARICOM were party to that decision. So all St. Lucia is doing is, come the 1st of May, we will be implementing those import duty rates consistent with what was agreed to at the quoted meeting.
Under Article 164, lesser developed countries are allowed to suspend as a temporary measure preferential treatment usually granted to products of other CARICOM member states in order to promote the development of a specific sensitive industry in the lesser developed countries. The implementation of the regime means higher